Okay, are we ready? What's up, coaches? Welcome to the Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Coach T-Mac. This video's guest is a former Texas A&M and Houston Texans receiver. With experience in both the SEC and the NFL, his knowledge of the game covers a lot of different philosophies. From verbiage to pure scheme, we are given an inside look of some of the more potent offenses in the game, and maybe find out some truth about guys you still watch on Sundays. If you want to catch any of these interviews live, I stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings, and sometimes Sunday. But other than that, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you can catch all these uploads. Now, cue the intro. It parts like the Red Sea. Nobody touches them.
No, it's like when you hear that you made the 105, it's like Christmas morning.
But if the ball comes in the B gap, I gotta make that play.
Right? So not everybody starts at ground zero equally. So, chat, welcome Travis Labhart. He is thankfully agreed to come on, be our first guest on this. Like I kind of previewed earlier when we first logged on, Travis from Whitesboro, correct?
Whitesboro, America, baby.
That's right. And plays college ball at Texas A&M. Got there in 11, right?
Got there in 9.
Oh, okay.
Well, 10. I got there in 10, but I started playing at 11. Yeah.
Gotcha. So got there in 10. First season on the team was 11, and then so that would make 14 your senior year.
Yep, super senior year.
Gotcha. Perfect. So that's just a little bit of background about him. And the big reason I wanted to have him on is that, we're all kind of stuck at home and trying to find ways to scratch that sports itch, and, being a coach and missing the game of football. I'm missing being around the kids. I feel like this is a great opportunity to get with somebody who's got, some next level, elite level experience in both the college and pro game, and just talk ball and talk about, what it was like and the experiences they had. The first thing I want to ask you, though, is because I know, because I did my homework, I may not be able to set up a Zoom meeting, but I can Google. I know that your freshman year, like you said, you showed up in 2010 and but weren't on the team until 2011. And I know the answer to this question, but I would love for you to kind of walk the guys watching through what you did that freshman year, because you were involved from an athletic standpoint. It just wasn't with the football team.
Yeah, so my freshman year, I actually went when I graduated high school. My goal was really to go play basketball. I mean, football, quite frankly, was an afterthought. I mean, I wasn't a very big kid when I was in high school. I was probably 5'9", 155 as a senior. I mean, I was just a little bitty guy. So I think the biggest thing for me was realizing that by growing, getting physically stronger was going to come a little bit later than some other people. So fortunately, I was a decent basketball player. And so when I went to A&M, my original hope was to actually walk onto the basketball team. So when I got there, our coach was Coach Turgeon at the time. He was, who I think he's at Maryland now. And when I went there, my hope was to play basketball, but their walk-on positions were completely full. So basically what I ended up doing is they told me to go do the men's team. So basically the women, they get a group of guys that come and practice against the women. We're a little bit bigger, faster, and stronger than them. And so it just kind of gives them an opportunity to go against some more elite athletes, I guess, guys that couldn't make it. And so essentially I just did that my entire freshman year. And then full circle, there was, I want to say it was in the spring of my sophomore year. I went and they had just like a 12-man tryout, which is pretty much the same thing as any other school. But A&M's history with 12-man is such a big deal. So it was the 12-man tryout. I just went and basically walked up, ran a 40. Did a vertical, ran a shuttle, and that was literally the only 3 things that I did, and I got a call back, and things kind of kicked off from there. So Yeah, the basketball, my whole freshman year was huge.
For sure.
I got a chance to lift. I had access to facilities. I mean, it was a pretty sweet gig. Being an athlete, you get a lot of help with tutors, things that your normal college student don't get access to. So I was very fortunate. And then also that freshman year, I put on probably 30 pounds. I went from 155 to 185. So that was a big jump for me. And then physically going into football it was seamless transition. So
For sure. And I mean, A&M basketball at that time was women's basketball is no slouch at that time. I mean,
no, they won the national championship when I was on the team.
So you basically are a national champion.
I'm a national champion. At the end of the day, some people can say that they've won a national championship. Others can't say that they did. But this guy's got a ring. So I actually don't have a ring, but they did give it to a lot of the guys.
Right. You were destined for bigger and better things playing on Saturdays. So they didn't want to spoil you too much.
The women's coach actually, he still has me. He doesn't really have me do it anymore. But for the first couple years when I was on the Texans and even after that, he would have me come back to his women's basketball luncheon and talk shop with everybody. So
for sure. I mean, that's a crazy experience. I had one or two buddies that did that kind of at different points when we were at Baylor, and kind of the same thing. I mean, Coach Mulkey wants those guys out there because she wants them to be physical, and that's how they build that dominant aspect of their team. And like I said, A&M wins it your freshman year, and my senior year, Baylor women's ended up winning it. So it obviously, they're pushing you athletically. Like you said, you have access to the facilities. It's just whether or not you take advantage of them. So there's the self accountability aspect of it for sure. So kind of transition into get on the team. We're just gonna skip over what happened in 2011. There's no real need to talk about it yet. We'll talk about Swope's dominance of my squad.
Hate to see it, but we'll take it.
Yeah, it hurts when you have a Heisman caliber quarterback and you still get blown out by 30 in College Station. So
we didn't even know he was a Heisman caliber quarterback that game. I was like, crazy.
Appreciate that. But getting into the kind of the King Cliff wasn't there. Cliff was there.
Yeah. So Coach, I actually came in. And Coach Sherman was the coach, which was really cool for me because that basically gave me 3 different languages to learn.
Right.
I learned Coach Sherman's offense, Coach Kingsbury's offense, and then a little bit later on, Coach O'Brien's offense, and which was really cool. You're continuing to learn new verbiage, and then you start to see things that are familiar, but probably the most interesting thing, maybe some people know, a lot of people don't probably, is I actually started out at, I was playing nickel, or corner, DB, safety, whatever you want to call it. I actually started when I made the team, all of our corners got hurt. Like literally, I think we had 2 corners that were healthy, that were scholarship guys. And so when I originally came onto the team, they put me at corner. So I would roll in and I'd play the nickel, and I actually led through that spring. I ended up leading the team in interceptions.
Just a playmaker.
Just all around. I mean, I picked off Johnny before he was Johnny like 5 times. He threw his first pick to me. It was great. But anyways, so at the end of the spring, and you know this, but I bet a lot of people don't know this, but when you go to fall camp in college, they only take 105 guys. So you can't. There's a lot more guys on the team, but you only take. It's called the 105. I'm assuming y'all had the same situation.
Oh yeah, that first going into what was going to be my redshirt freshman year, my sophomore year, I was nervous for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, people that. You just think everybody goes. It's like when you hear that you made the 105, it's like Christmas morning.
100%.
Yes, I did it. I made it. It's the 105. Let's go. And so I actually, since I only played in the spring, it was a very brief picture. Well, all the scholarship guys came back, and so I was 106. I was literally 106 that year. And after the spring, my DB coach was like, "Hey, you're for sure a lock. You'll be in. It's not even a question." And then whatever the start date was, August, whatever, I was 106. And, it's one of those things where you're like, am I 106 or am I like really 110 and you're just telling me that?
Right.
So, anyways, I really was 106. Well, my roommate quits 1 weekend to fall camp. And so they called me and were like, "Hey, you were 106, like we said." So I go in and meet with Coach Sherman, and he's like, "Hey, how would you feel about playing wide receiver?" And I was like, didn't see that coming. But my roommate was a receiver, and so when he quit, they needed a spot for receiver. So I go start learning receiver. It was pretty. I played quarterback in high school. Not that means a ton, but I do tend to pick up concepts and big picture schemes a little bit quicker probably than your average, just transitioning wide receiver. So it was pretty simple. I hopped in pretty quickly, and then after that, it just kind of took off. So, which was also difficult because, to your point, I was sitting behind Swope. Who was probably arguably one of the greatest receivers A&M's had. And we only played really with 3 receivers in that scheme. It was pro-style offense.
At this time, Mike Evans got there, 12?
Yeah, he was. So that year that I switched over was his freshman year, his true freshman year, and he was awful. He was
he's just a big baby giraffe, just out there.
He was so confused. He's running. He's putting on so many blinkers as he's running routes. It's like I know exactly where he's going. But over the course of the year, him and Johnny both, because they were both true freshmen that year, they really grew a ton. It's crazy to even think back to their transition of just that being their true freshman year, which they redshirted, then playing the next year, and then playing another year, and just watching the success that they had.
Right.
It's pretty crazy to see there.
But bringing up Mike, just to point out the depth, like you said, the depth of that room, like. You weren't, hey, we want you to move to receiver and there's no depth there and, you got a shot to break. Like, you're standing at the bottom of Mount Everest moving positions, like, okay.
Yeah, so the DB room, I'm pretty sure are there 161 schools or 116?
116, 119, somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere there. I think we were like 115 in passing. And so I was like, "Oh, I'm getting on the field this year." You don't lead the team in the spring in interceptions and not sniff the field.
Right.
These guys are terrible. And so I'm thinking there's a lot better chance there. And then they switched me to the receiver room, which has Swope, who at the time, Jeff Fuller was
a dude.
He was supposed to be a first-round pick. And
yeah.
He obviously slipped to the 4th. Next year, but he was he was a Mike Evans before Mike Evans, and so then you got Mike. Then there was another guy, Uzoma Nwachuku, who went and played in the league. It was not a pushover room. So to your point, yeah, it was. I just remember looking and thinking, golly, there's like literally no chance for me getting on this field at receiver. But whatever, I'm gonna grind it out, see what happens. So.
Yeah, Hunter. My senior year, 2011, we go in. And Josh Gordon's just been kicked off the team. But then you look at our 2 deep at, what you would call X, H, Y, Z. You look at that, and I'm 2 at X. And 7 of the 8 guys that made up the rest played at least 3 years in the league. Yeah. And so you have those conversations, and it's just like, and we kicked off arguably the most athletic receiver in the world off the team already. So who knows what it would have been. So, I get it. But, fast forward kind of once you break onto the field and things are starting to, when you move into the receiver room and Sherman's still there. Mm-hmm. And so someone in Kingsbury show up in 12.
Yeah, they showed up in 12. So he got relieved of his duties at the end of the 11, so the start of 12. Yeah, and that, I mean, I don't know if you ever went through a coach. You didn't go through a coach change, did you?
I did, but
Oh, you did.
I knew it was happening. So I got there. I got to Waco in fall 2007, and Guy Morris he's still on staff, but I got on the team, and 2 weeks later I was like, okay, all of these guys are getting fired. Like the prisoners ran the prison. Like there wasn't any structure. One of my favorite stories to tell is our strength and conditioning coach, like, the red shirt workouts, we would lift twice a week, like during practice weeks or whatever, like before practice, which, six in one hand, half dozen the other. Other programs have guys come in early and do it. It is what it is. But we're doing squats, and this guy's attempt to have us sit back on our heels in the squat rack was he took a bunch of broom handles and put them in the rack, and he said that you had to walk until your toes were under the broom handle and your knees were touching it and then squat. And I'm like, look, I get what you're trying to say, but that's physically impossible. So, I went through a coaching change, but it was a coaching change that we all knew was coming. Like nobody was shocked. It wasn't, it's October and guys are like, man, I'm just trying to make a good impression on the next dude coming into the room. So,
yeah, I mean that, and to your point, I mean, not knowing one's coming was pretty weird because, it was like we had just had a really good year the year before that, to where we played LSU in a bowl game. We lost. I mean, it wasn't a great loss, but we lost nonetheless. And losing's never fun. The next year we were supposed to. I think we started out at 5 or 6 in the nation, so we were a top dog. We obviously spiraled downwards, which is what led to his departure. But thinking through, like, Coach Sumlin, Coach Kingsbury, all those guys coming in, I mean, it was just rumblings. And then all of a sudden, boom, the next thing you know, you get a text message from, hey, we've hired Kevin Sumlin from Houston. And you're like, what? And all these relationships, poof, just
gone.
So, I mean, for just anybody to wrap their mind around, just imagine all of your high school coaches just one day, they're just gone. Great. All the foundation you've laid, all the hard work, you're starting them back over. And so that was really tough because, I mean, for me, playing receiver, especially being a walk-on, I'm walking into a situation where I've just laid a foundation with the defense and the offense. And the quickest way to get on the field, and this, is special teams. And so if you want to play, you start on special teams unless you're a 5-star athlete and the position's open. So that was a really challenging point when he left. It was also exciting because, more receivers on the field. But, I mean, it was very difficult because we had a stacked receiver room because everybody came back. And then now they don't even know that I played defense. So it's kind of one of those they're like, okay, well, we always put defensive backs on the field. Defensive players, they can tackle, yada, yada, yada. So that was really challenging for me because it was really hard to get on special teams because special teams coach was
probably a defensive guy.
And he, quite frankly, he's one of the few coaches that just felt like he didn't like me. I don't know why.
Right.
Whatever. So yeah, that was crazy. I mean, when he came in, I don't know. I had mixed emotions, but obviously, I think it for sure benefited me in the long haul. So.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that our coaching change, like, experiences was so different is, like, I got there and immediately, I knew, right? I could read the writing on the wall. So I didn't have a fostered relationship that I invested, all this effort trying to just get my name remembered and, this, that, and the other. And you had gone through that entire year of convincing those guys that, like, hey, I can do this, I can ball, like, look, I can, look how valuable I am. And then all of those people that start to believe that and buy into it, they're gone, right? So you not only have to start at ground zero because everybody's new when these new coaches come in, but when you bring especially somebody local, like, I'll never forget when Coach Browse had his first meeting with us when he left Houston. And he's rattling off guys' high school baseball stats from recruiting them, right? So not everybody starts at ground zero equally, right? You get a new coach and
say the same thing.
so
they pull film. right?
For sure.
They're pulling game film, and there's only 11 guys that get on the field. So if you're not getting on the field, there's no way for you to really show a new staff. I mean, I just doubt they go back and look at practice.
For sure.
But they're just looking at stats, like you said. I mean, Coach Browse did it. I know. I mean, one of my teammates loved him to death. He's still in the league, so I guess he's doing better than I am. But was Ricky Seals-Jones? He was like
freak,
the biggest.
Eric Dickerson's nephew.
Okay, yeah. So and he was a 5-star, right? I mean, he's this huge guy from Sealy, Texas, highly touted recruit, and he comes in, and I'm like, this guy's a 5-star. He can't even run a route.
Yeah, he played like 9 different positions in high school, but like 3 of them were like D-line, right?
Yeah,
so
and so I mean, I that was really tough too, because he came in with the new staff, and they bring in a recruiting class, making a lot of promise. I mean, so it was pretty challenging. Just like it was an uphill battle, just like having to stay super engaged and understanding like what it is that I want out of this thing. Like
sure.
Like, do I want to get on the field? Do I want to settle for special teams? Do I don't want to quit?
Yeah.
But I mean, that just really wasn't in my nature. So.
And I mean, guys that kind of go through our path, you have those internal conversations pretty much every. Mine was every like training camp. My position coach, I was very fortunate in the fact that we had a good relationship, but he always shot me straight, right? It was always, hey, we're not going to sugarcoat this. It is what it is. And he flat out told me, going into 2009, like I just had a great spring. I spent like half the time running with the ones because of some injuries and things like that. So I'm feeling good about myself. And we're 3 days before camp starts, and he's kind of prepping everybody. And he asked me to come meet with him. And he's like, look, I'm just going to be honest with you. We feel like this is really our first full season recruiting class, guys that we've been able to bring in and, recruit for multiple years to the school. He said, so you need to understand that I understand where you left spring and I understand where the success you had, but we got to get looks on these guys. And you can't, and basically told me that like, hey, you're not going to do anything during team for the next week and a half. And, that's a tough pill to swallow, 19, 20 years old, just like, what? Everything I did means nothing. And, now being on this side, understanding big picture, it's different, but it definitely made it tough. And, obviously, like you said, worked out, had, fought through that adversity. And fast forward to getting onto the field, and you and I have kind of talked about this a little bit just because of conversation and what I do and how you kind of help us out or whatnot. But I wanted to jump into the concept stuff. Mm-hmm. Got a couple plays drawn up that you had talked about. I didn't get a chance to draw up the play, but we'll pull up the clip and let chat see that. But the first one I want to jump into, I'll share my screen so you can see it too, and just kind of tell me where to move the mouse. All right. So chat, y'all all should be able to see us still and the play we've got drawn up. So this is the one that you sent me from when you were with Houston, and just to make sure I'm saying it right, because I love offensive verbiage and I want to feel like I know what I'm talking about. 0 near open R30 134 10 X stock.
Yeah. So one of the cool things, one of my favorite things about getting to play for the Texans, obviously it's a childhood dream just to be in the league, but this verbiage is insane. This is light. So this is something that's kind of short. It's not too long, but just to be able to walk through something that's pretty cool. So 0 is the formation. Obviously, it's telling the tight end which way the strength is. Near is actually talking to the X, which is he's technically supposed to be, I think it's 5 yards from the tackle. The clip that I sent you, he's in a little bit tighter. I mean, you're in the middle of the field, so it's fine. But it's near is talking to the weak side receiver to be in tight.
Okay, so you want this dude's going to be more here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I lied. Near is actually the fullback. He's on the near side to the strength call. Open is is talking to the X.
Okay.
Sorry, I haven't been in here in a minute.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, so zero is the strength call. Near is talking to the fullback. Open is talking to the X, just letting him know to bring his split in. This 10 is two ends, the Y and the Z. It's a two-man concept. What was really interesting about being at with the Texans, Coach Sherman, and then Coach Kingsbury was Coach Kingsbury had like one number or that could mean four guys involved. But when I got to the Texans, there's two-man concepts and three-man concepts. So individual stuff will be tagged similar to this, but 10 is talking to the two-man side. The Y and the Z just have a 10 to 12 yard in route, dig route, basic, or some of the names, and then the Z's got that kind of a spray release inside, and it's 22 yards, I think.
The Z is 22.
Yeah, it's a deep one. So
Good gosh.
This is a play action. R134 is a play action. He's getting some major depth.
Jeez.
And then the stock is literally. I did not. So obviously when you are more of a pro style offense, you're going to be looking at really needing to know outside receiver. And then when I was on the Texans, we only had 6 guys in the receiver room, which is crazy.
Crazy.
Having 6 guys, and my scrappy self is one of the 6. So when we're going through the season, you've got Andre Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins, and then you really got 3 and 4 wide receiver that are playing. They're backup guys, special teams guys, and then 5 and 6 are kind of like hybrids. So like for me, I couldn't just learn the slot. I had to play a ton of outside. So like if Andre or DeAndre Hopkins needed a breather during practice, not only was I running scout team, I was also coming over and running with 2s. So I would back up Hop, I would back up Andre, and so I actually got pretty good at outside because I could be pretty crafty as long as they didn't come up and jam me.
Right.
And the stock, one of the reasons it's one of my favorite routes is it's a long developing play, and probably one of the better things or one of my better skill sets is being able to be crafty at the top of a route. And because I wasn't super fast, but if I could get you at the top of a route, then that's where I could win. And the reason I like the stock, it's essentially a corner post, is because you almost always are going to get the look. I mean, in the event that they're in man, you're still probably going to have a chance because you've only got. There's a play action, so your safety, unless he is super deep, and if it's cover 2, but you're still going to be able to run this off of a cover 2 safety because you're running it off of him.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I like this route is you almost always get the look. Now, it obviously depends upon the play action and some other things where it dictates it, but you are going to get a killer opportunity to step on some toes and smell some breath and have a big shot at throwing a deep ball here. So that's one of the reasons I love this play. I used to run this in practice about midway through the season when my legs were really fresh and I was getting pretty strong and pretty fast. I would run this against these guys, and they hated it. This was probably my best route. There was a deep route that I ran because you're really making your move around 12 to 15. And one of the things that I think I learned along the way, and you can probably attest to this too, is they give you a range on your route for a reason. And this is one thing that I've always tried to coach younger kids on. We don't want to tell you 10 because what are you going to do? You're going to run it at 8. Or if we tell you 12, you're going to run it at 10. You're always in a hurry. And so you never want to be in a hurry, really. You want to be quick, but you don't want to hurry. And so that's one thing I love about this route. It's all off of your defender. You're getting to your defender and really making your move. If you've gotten past 15 yards, it's probably not coming your way. That's what we've got the other 2 built in for. But that's something that I really love about this play is you can almost guarantee if the look is appropriate, and maybe it's 2nd and 2. We just got an 8-yard gain off of something, and it's 2nd and 2. It's a great chance to take a shot, and depending on unless you're on the goal line. But this is an awesome play. I want to really like this play.
So when this is called, they're peeking they're peaking the stock early, and then going Z to Y.
Yeah, I think that if you asked a quarterback, he would probably say, actually, because I don't totally know the correct reads here, but if I had to guess, the stock's not the first read. But if you asked almost any quarterback, they love throwing this with the right read. So if they're in, the reason I said you can almost always get this look, really cover 3 would be the only one that'd be a little bit challenging because you do have that safety right in the middle of the field. So I would, if you've got single high safety and they're running cover 3 or cover 6, then you're probably not going to be able to throw this ball, which is why you've got the other 2 built in.
Right,
Cover 2, cover 4. I mean, any of those concepts, you can really take a shot on this play.
For sure. And wait, and I'm gonna pull it up here in a second. Like you were talking about, this, because it's play action and because the quarterback's going to turn his back to you, your move window is a little bit deeper, and it's all predicated off of how good you are early, killing that cushion, getting on his toes, and pressing the leverage issue as fast as possible. My question would be, guys playing flat-footed, peeking in the backfield, and you're on him at 8. Would you bother with that corner fake, or are you just going to take speed kills and run by him?
Yeah, I mean I think that's probably one of the things that as you kind of go along, you just kind of learn. I mean, Randy Moss is a great example. If he wins at the line, what does he do? He throws the hand up, mailbox. That's what we call it. If he wins at the line and he sees that there's no safety help, he was historically known for mailbox, which is just throwing the hand up and he's gone. And Deontay Culpepper I'm just going to throw it deep. Same thing with Tom Brady. So I think that the older you get, the more football you play, you start to understand that if you have that cushion, you eat it up quick, you get to your spot early. Hey, if this route is 12 to 15, what they've drawn it up for your move window, but he's sitting flat-footed at 8, I'm making my decision at 8 yards. Conversely, because one of the clips I sent you, I know the safety was deeper because I'm pretty sure it was cover 2, and he was so deep that I just kept running at him, and it would probably made it more closer to 15 to 18 or even 18 to 20. So I think it's just kind of predicated on your defender at the end of the day. You're not going to you always run to win, and so if you run to win and you give yourself a shot at 8 or if it's 18, then so be it. But that's only on really shot plays, because if you're running a 5-yard out route and they're combined with a concept, probably not a great idea to overextend yourself and just freelance. I know some of the boys in 7-on-7 like to do that. Not a great idea. Would strongly just stick within yourself, stick within the play. But if you've got a window and you know that you can do something like that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one of our boys in Salina, Big DJ, wants to know if we can run this play, and DJ, you just worry about being bigger than everybody, and run to where you're supposed to.
There you go.
But like I said, I'm gonna turn on the film that you sent me. Full disclosure, guys, this was filmed on an iPhone. Travis takes really good care of his iPhones. So
2 iPhones. I filmed it on 2 different iPhones.
There we go. Good eye. All right. So like I said, Travis takes great care of his iPhones, but you can see exactly what he's talking about here in the. This is 7-on-7 look, and he's got that condensed split. And now this guy, you can't see the laser. I don't even know I'm doing that, but this guy right here, is lined up over you pre-snap. But is that who you're running the route off of?
There's 2 of them. I don't think this is the one. No. The answer is no. I don't think it is. You can, when you push play, I'm pretty sure they're in cover 2 here because I think he shoves me inside. Yeah, they're in cover 2. So there's the guy I'm running it off of, the safety.
And this is the one you were talking about earlier with a little bit deeper pre-snap alignment. So you had to carry your vertical stem a little bit deeper than you probably anticipated. But at the same time, press this. And at this point, we're 15 yards downfield. But this guy knows that you're committed to the vertical, so the second thing that little taste that you give him, he's got to take it, right?
Yep.
And like we said, the play develops a little bit. The play develops a little bit longer, or takes a little bit longer to develop than originally anticipated, but still creates a great opportunity. And for all offensive coaches watching at home, we all understand that it's a 7-on-7 period, and this is a play action deep shot. Yeah. And there's not a single person on this field that's going to bite on a play action fake in the middle of 7-on-7.
I think they're in Tampa too, because the Mike, and I think that's a universal term, but Tampa 2 was obviously developed from Monty Kiffin.
Yeah,
and Derek Brooks, but this linebacker Max Bullock, he ain't worried about the run, that's for sure. In 7-on-7,
not at all.
He just opens the gate and he's walling off the deepest. So.
But if you can,
screwed himself.
If we can get creative with our imagination, and it's all predicated off of protection and things of that nature. But your 22-yard dig is doing everything that it's supposed to. Linebackers shutting it down, safeties biting. So depending on what the quarterback's really looking for, like you said, that perfect matchup, from a numbers game, as long as you don't get out blitzed here, you still should be the primary just based off of leverage. Our Johnny's got to go beat their Joe, but everything else kind of works out the way it's supposed to. And I would assume that he checked this down to the Y anyway.
Yeah, and I can't totally remember, but this clip, Coach O'Brien would do. He would do clips of the day or something like that, and he actually pulled this clip and said, "This is how you're supposed to run the stock." And he was really mad at our quarterback, who was a rookie as well. Poor guy, Tom Savage. He just was really trying to remember plays at this point because there was a lot going on.
Right.
And so he was check down Charlie all 7-on-7. He was just like, I'm just going to dump it off.
Right.
So he throws it later on, but yeah, it was hate to see it.
So and then take it to this next clip. Get a little late start, so we're post snap here, but you're essentially getting the same look of cover 2, or I could be mistaken here. No, yeah, you're getting a 2 invert basically, or is that's the corner? Never mind.
Yeah, so that's the corner, and I think this is the safety over here at the bottom. Mm-hmm. It looks like he's spinning down. I wish I could see the full picture here.
Yeah, so he's kind of.
There he is. That looks like they're in cover 3. There's the deep safety back here.
Yeah, the deep safety lined up at 18 yards.
Maybe Robert. Yeah, this one was tough. He throws this ball, but he didn't throw the other one. I don't know what he's doing.
Right. Hey.
But this one. What's that yardage?
You're sticking this
10, 15.
Yeah, about 16 to come back to the post.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where you realize, if you realize the coverage and you realize kind of the situation. I mean, I could have took this to 18 yards, 20 yards, and totally got on top of him. But
you got to feel the timing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I'm running out of time because he's bailing. And his name is Marcus Williams. He's I think he's still playing in the league. He had a really good rookie season, and I think he ran a 4.34. So I'm not saying to run a 4.34, but I'm saying that my game speed is a little bit better than my 40 speed.
Well, and then the whole leverage thing here, like when you go to make this move, he's already fully committed to his back pedal, but it doesn't matter because that commitment to the vertical, he's got to take that first little taste you give him. Right, and that was one of the big things that our coach always told us is that when if it's a true double move, like a sluggo, if it's something like that, you got to sell out for the first one. But if it's a speed double, like post corner, corner post, something along those lines, that first one is almost your bad move, right? That move that you give it, and those guys, man, they bite and I got this guy easy. I'm on top, right? I've done this. Right, you create that perception, that illusion that they won by not throwing your best stuff. That way, when you come back to the post, when you come back to the money route, he's already committed that half inch of his hip turn to squeezing outside, and so you're underneath with leverage. It doesn't matter if you run 4.3 if you can't play angles.
And what's funny about what you just said is that the progression of the intelligence of the DBs changes. I remember in college, you could give them just like the slightest, just little bitty bite of a double move, and then you could really kind of get past guys. I remember we were playing Alabama, and Clinton Dix was, who's still in the league. He literally could not. I, I'm not saying he couldn't just cover me. He couldn't cover a lot of people in college, and he would just bite on the smallest little things. Well, then I get here, and these guys start to pick up on what you're real and what you're not real. And so, if you give a really good double move, that's like you've really committed to this. Sometimes they don't even bite on it because they know, okay, I've got my help inside. I'm not gonna go there. But a guy in college, he's like, oh man, I'm just gonna follow that, just see if I can make a play. And so the intelligence level of these guys at the next level just progresses. I mean, you're talking about one of the guys, Jonathan Joseph from the Texans, is still there. I mean, I think he's 35.
Yeah, he's pushing like year 12.
Yeah, and when I was there, he was not the fastest guy by any means. He's like coming in last when we're doing conditioning. But when you get out on the field, he is so smart. So the game speed, his intelligence is just next level, and that's where you have to be really clean in a lot of this. And this route, even in itself, wasn't great because there's another rookie. But yeah, the importance of like really committing to your routes and being consistent on them.
Yeah, and Heath just dropped a line and said, "Gotta love those run fits in 7-on-7." So we've all experienced it. But jump into the last one. I know you threw this one in here just to show off Team Labhart for sure. Yeah. But I love the end zone angle of it because it shows leverage, and I think you're not even a full 3 steps before a true break is made. But that first 2.5 is so committed to pressing leverage that it creates all the space. One of the biggest things that we struggle with, especially at the high school level, is guys don't understand the leverage aspect, right? They struggle with why can't I just run to where there is nobody, right? And so kind of one of the big things that we tell our guys is that you've got to be willing to run a route that gets you covered early so you can be open late. Because guys that get open real early, before the quarterback's at the top of his drop, before the guy's got the snap, those are the guys that get covered up and they don't get the ball. And I think this route kind of shows the best example of how important it is just to play with that speed and be able to push that leverage and kill cushions and play in those tight quarters.
Yeah, and this can go 2 ways, especially at this level. This was his 7th year in the league, and for the life of me, I was sitting here, I was like, what is his name? But he gives it away early, and also the safety behind him kind of gave me a clue that he was telling the truth. Because sometimes what they'll do is, see, the safety's already cheating out, and so I knew that he was going to jump inside, even though he was already inside. But sometimes what they'll do is they'll line up outside, and you may know this as well. They'll line up outside, and then they'll jump inside late just to throw you off. But the safety started kind of cheating, and there's another guy on the outside that he did not want me to go inside. His job was do not let him inside. So what do? You scare him that you're going to go inside.
And just playing that fast. And just for those keeping score at home, this is Travis staring down the line of scrimmage watching the ball because he doesn't worry about the cadence. And what he's talking about is this man over here that's almost completely outside of his peripheral vision that he's still seeing that triangle and understanding who all can make a play on him and who all can disrupt a play if the quarterback comes his way, and what they're telling you, right? You know, safeties are always the ones that tell the truth as long as you know what their job can be tied to their positioning.
This guy, he and I had been going at it in one-on-ones like all training camp. He would line up. He after this, he was like, because when we were watching, we always watch the one-on-ones in training camp with the DBs, and Andre Johnson got after him when I ran this route. So I got to go against this guy the rest of training camp. He was not happy about it, but it really does, like, to your point of threatening their leverage, even if it's maybe having to go a little bit out of your way, but you have to be patient because this is only a 5-yard route, but I kind of shortened it up and made it 3 to 4 because I slowed it down, and I mean I win obviously. He actually didn't throw me the ball here. He checked it down, but
Classic Tom.
check down Charlie. The concept that I sent you that we ran at A&M, we had this type of freedom, and it you just can't lose. I mean, versus man versus zone, there's not a wrong decision, and this one is a ton of fun to run against man.
For sure.
Goal line's a little bit more challenging if you're a good route runner. They'll usually go cover 7, which is the safety spinning down and doubling one of the guys that's in the slots usually, or it could be an outside guy, but this is a ton of fun to really run anywhere on the field.
Yeah, and it's just, and I think the craziest part that like a lot of guys will overlook is that first thing you said. You knew based off of safety alignment, you're identifying this linebacker's job, and you know that his job is to play inside. And instead of just saying, okay, well, he's there and running to space, just getting out here on a vertical whip, pressing this and creating more space for yourself through attacking his leverage is something that, a lot of guys don't understand. If you looked at this in a playbook, right, it's going to be drawn as either a quick out or the full whip, like you see straight ahead, right? But if we just play this in slow motion, when you get into your break, you've moved a full 1.5 to 2 yards and crossed over that hash to create that space as you come out of your break.
Yeah, and I think you just nailed it on the head. Like, it's really hard to I'm not saying teach that. What I'm saying is on the paper, it is a straight line, and then there's a option route any direction. So it's not something that you draw this on a piece of paper and squiggly lines, and I mean you can, but you have to your point, you have to understand the triangle. You have to understand what his job, what he's afraid of, what he can't do, because there's another guy that's going to be sitting outside of this, and so I had to create enough space that as I moved inside to the ball, that I had enough space outside, because the guy outside, he takes his eyes off me because he thinks I run an under.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just creating that kind of that picture that cleans it up. So
for sure, and it's a beautiful thing like that. So so moving on, I know we kind of went in reverse order, and we started with the Texans concept, but that was the one I drew up first, and so that's the one we did first. But I want to jump back into the A&M days, and maybe there we go. Oh. So next play. So this is at Kingsbury. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kingsbury he's married to the not the air raid, but to the spread.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And this is, you hear this play called like 9,000 different things, right? Early being your formation, your 3x1. Most guys, we kind of talked about this earlier. Most guys that live by this terminology, you got early and late for your trips right and your trips left, but y'all went, you said ace flip was your trips left?
So, and after you said that, we were definitely ace flip. I guess they just, I don't know, maybe that's what they stuck with, but ace was 2x2, so you just chuck up a finger.
Mm-hmm.
Ace flip would just be, and they would actually just like flipping a coin.
Right.
So anyways, so yeah, we were early in ace flip for trips left and trips right.
But like I said, we see this play, as 618. We did a weird, not exactly version of this, but everything that Coach Browse adopted from other offenses was always tweaked in some form or fashion solely based on our splits. We use so much of our splits to manipulate pre-snap reads to where it changed the angles that guys needed to travel on their routes and things of that nature. So our 618 looked a little bit different, but this is stick, this is Texaco, this is, there's so many different things to call this play, but at the end of the day, it's all you're doing is identifying a curl hook guy and attacking him.
Yep.
So if you want, just walk us through kind of each responsibility of this play, and if you can think of a moment where, you know, y'all exposed an opponent frequently with this play, let us know.
Yeah, so the left side or the weak side of 618 is always going to get just some individual concept. It's also, I mean, this is a quick game. I mean, this is a quick game, obviously. So, I mean, it's a lot of short stuff. Johnny would get very risky. I'm not going to say he's always was my, this was not my favorite play when he called it all the time, especially when I was the H, because the H
because of this guy right here.
Yeah, the H, you better really trust your Z or your X to do an MOR, which is a mandatory outside release. For those of you who don't know that. And the reason you do a mandatory outside release is because if you get outside the corner, if the only thing that kills the H is the corner, and it's in a cover 2 scenario or even a cover 4. I mean, if he's sitting squatting and he's a good corner and he wants to get risky, he will kill the H, and the Z or the X will be sending flowers to him in the hospital. So they have outside release. It's super critical that they do that just to protect the H. But the backside guys, it's whatever he wants. I mean, if he wants to run a slant with the back coming out of the backfield, kind of creating a snag type look, great. But he can do a double move. He can call a stop. He can call a comeback, whatever he wants. But the bread and butter is the Y right there, and it's kind of the route that I sent when I was at the Texans is pretty much what you're running. You're whatever the defense gives you, you just get open. I mean, because the H is taken, he's running a 3-step speed out or banana out, so you have a ton of space to get creative, which is why it's a ton of fun. It's anywhere from 5 to 8. You know, there's times where we maybe carried it a little bit further pre-snap. You know, you're just kind of like knowing where the sticks are. You know, right? If it's 1st and 10, you're probably going 5 to 6 or whatever the defense gives you. But hey, if it's 3rd and 8, which they would not call this, but hypothetically if they did, you better get 8 to 10. But the one game that I can specifically think of, and you could literally probably turn it on. I mean, if you saw it on TV, we played Mizzou my last year and Johnny's last year, and Coach Kingsbury was not there, but Jake Spavital was, and Johnny a lot of times that second year he started to freelance a little bit. Like he kind of did his own thing a time or two, and this play, I think we called it 4 times in a row, and I think I had 4 catches in a row. I don't know what the linebacker was doing, because he is just like screaming out 618, and just our sign was you just hit your chest.
Right.
You just hit your chest. And so at one point, the 3rd time, he's just like 618, 618, and the linebacker is still no clue. I mean, we're just marching down the field. And so this was, and then Mizzou ended up burning a timeout, and they obviously adjusted and kind of took it away. Not the rest of the game, but I mean, we were just peppering them with this, and it's like I said, it's a ton of fun to run. You don't really get that tired as a receiver because you're getting to be creative. You're running 5 yards. Johnny, pretty good at this throw. I mean, he throws you open a lot,
right.
which is a good attribute in a quarterback. But the Z and the X do need to stay alive in this, because I mean, if you have a guy like him. And we were joking earlier, but he will throw this ball to the outside release receiver. Sometimes if it's a cover 2, I mean, he will pump that H and throw it to the Z or the X, or he'll throw a back shoulder. He'll just take a home run shot out of 618 just because he can. So everybody's alive in this play, but really the breadwinner is for sure the Y in these early and ace flips, and you just man zone. It doesn't really matter. There's really not a scenario where you shouldn't be open. So yeah,
100%. Love it. So I think we have one more. Yeah. So
yeah.
I hate this play, and I hate your boy, but I don't really. But so a Chicago 66 H stutter. The H stutters in parentheses for those watching at home, because that inside press dig is the base of the play. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And then that H stutter, that dotted line kind of gives you the double off of it. And we were talking earlier about a former teammate that Travis has already mentioned, Ryan Swope. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it still stands, but I'm pretty sure in 2011 when we played them, it was a back and forth game for about a quarter and like 4 minutes left in the second quarter. We were, everybody's throwing haymakers. Guys are getting 15-yard penalties for throwing the thumbs down, all of that. But Ryan Swope had a field day and if people didn't know who he was before that game, they knew who he was after he played us in 2011 because he went off. And it was the most annoying thing in the world. But I know you had talked about how you and him love this play because of the double move tag. And it's kind of boring out of, that base call. But just talk us through us a little bit.
Yeah, so this play was, we had it with Coach Sherman too, which is actually where Ryan, we called it, I think it was arrow. We called it arrow, double arrow, and so it was the same concept. And you win a lot on this dig because zone, you really can still win in this against a zone, whether it's cover 3, cover 4, cover 2, cover 6. You really can still win across the board, especially with just having that dig. I mean, you're constantly on the move. You can against man at the top of the route, you can really work it. But the absolute best thing is to get a safety that is totally flat-footed, and he's sitting at that 10 to 12, and he just is thinking he's driving on that dig, and you just slip him. You take 3 hard steps in, and you just slip him for a touchdown. And I do think that Swope his most yards he ever had in a game was against Baylor that year. And I think it is a school record for most yards in a game, unless Mike beat it against Alabama last year. But yeah, that route on the left side, Chicago is a great concept. We ran it a lot, especially in up tempo. And then down here at the bottom, 66 is the other concept, which is just you've got a quick out, or sorry, not a quick out, a quick stop. And then the inside guy is running just kind of an inside fade. And really, he's running that off of the look that he's getting. So, if Johnny looks out there and he's like, okay, well, that guy's rolled down and it's clearly man across the board, then he may throw the inside fade. I mean, my actual first big catch was on 66.
Against Ole Miss, right?
Miss. Yeah. And the nickel rolled down. It was man. I beat him, and he kind of threw it back shoulder. So this is a great play, especially for the inside guys all across the board. And we actually did ace Chicago 66. What he would do is he would ace Chicago, and then 66 he kind of flip his hand back behind his butt. But Chicago, he would point at the H, and he would go like that, and that's the pump. That was our pump sign. So whoever he pointed at, he was just like pumping like an air compressor or something.
Right.
And they would know, hey, you've got the double move off of whatever route you got.
So on the front side of this with the Y, I know he's running. You said he's running that based off the look he gets. Is there any freedom, or did they ever take it into an old school corner, or was it always you're gonna stick for width but still look over that inside shoulder?
Yeah, we did, because if it was let's say you get a cover 2 look here, you're really just running to be covered. So if you were able to identify that, really you're probably coming off the ball, because if it was cover 2, you're running off the safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he would throw you there, and so
right.
I mean, essentially the Z, if he recognizes cover 2, he actually has an under, so it's kind of almost an option route. So
right.
He's not just running and standing on top of the corner. So he has to kind of make an executive decision. Okay, what coverage is this, and do I need to stay on the move?
Gotcha.
And then the Y, we had pretty smart Ys. So like Swope was a Y, I was a Y, and we had one other guy that was a Y. And we were all pretty smart, so we could recognize coverage and kind of make that adjustment. So in a perfect world, yes, if you saw it, you would just go ahead and stick it to the corner and almost create a smash concept out of it. And usually Johnny is pretty good about ID and coverage as well. He's not going to, when we get up to the line, he's not going to look out there and be like 66 against cover 2.
Right.
Probably he's going to run a smash or something. So, but yeah, you need to adjust this based on the look.
Gotcha. And then just for those keeping score at home, the famous play that I already put it on Twitter, but I thought we'd watch it together. I'll go ahead and click the sound on because we kind of talked about this earlier, but you're in Ace, and tell us the play call again.
Yeah, so I had to text one of my buddies to figure out what the full play call was, but this is Ace Bubble Special Smash. So you got Bubble Special at the top with me and Darrell, and then down here at the bottom you just got a smash concept with Malcolm and Mike coming across.
On 2nd and 7. Manziel leaps over a guy still on his feet. Manziel, Labhart. Touchdown, Aggies.
So unnecessary.
He's magic.
Right, but
Are you kidding me?
so that was one of my, you say so unnecessary, that was one of my favorite parts about the Gruden QB camp with him is, they talk about Swope's catch against Alabama when Johnny fumbles it and then catches it in the air and throws him the ball. And Gruden's just like, yeah, but if you just take the pre-snap read and throw this, then none of that has to happen.
I know.
And, but it was that's just kind of who he was and what he did. So you gotta appreciate it.
Yeah, he for sure. I mean, if you ask the two, our two tackles, we had two really good tackles when he was there, Jake Matthews and Luke Jokel. I guess Jake, he was the 7th overall pick, and Luke was the 2nd overall pick. I think both of those guys would tell you we hated blocking for him because, they're two of the best tackles that have ever rolled through A&M, and they're really good at pass protecting. But when you've got a guy that's just running around back there in the backfield freelancing, it makes it a little bit more difficult to keep tabs on where he's at. There was a play against Alabama. He did the exact same thing where he just is running all over the place. He just throws it up.
And Mike's in midfield and just comes down with it.
Catch it, and I'm like, holy cow. The kid would just look pre-snap and be – because in that play that you just showed, I'm not saying that I was the first place he should have thrown it, but – he drops back and I'm wide open early, but I won't complain because we got 6 out of it. So
right, and there's countless plays. I think it's against Arkansas where he steps up and avoids, and then retreats backwards and runs in an entire circle with an Arkansas defensive end chasing him, only to come out and then pump fake and run in. And he does something like that against Mizzou, where he runs in a complete circle and then pump fakes and throws the ball to Mike for a touchdown at the goal line. And it's just, but that's who he was as a quarterback. And, it's kind of like the story that wasn't true that we talked about earlier. You live and die by the brand. You got to be married to that style of play if he's going to start for you.
Yeah. And
so I just had a guy ask, Keith just asked, the Swope catch against Bama. He said, was that lucky 8, the play call?
Oh,
throw a curveball at you.
I don't think it was 8, because Swope went, R8 was a corner, or it was like a smash. And lucky. Now, I do think it actually might. It depends on what he's calling lucky. So we called lucky. It was empty, and it was 3 by to the left and 2 by to the right, and then 8 would have been. So it would have been a corner, and honestly I think it was Chicago. I think it was Chicago to the left, and I have no clue what was to the right. But it very easily could have been. I honestly, I did not hear the play call, and I can't remember because all that we watched on that play was Johnny's heroics.
Yeah.
And we're like, wait, why did he do that? Anyway,
Why didn't he just throw it to this
I
guy?
barely
It's standing
remember
all
some of the
alone.
plays anyway now, so.
For sure.